the monster of the labyrinth. Minotaur. Hello everyone. Welcome to Mythology Journey. Today I will tell you about the Minotaur, one of the most terrifying and intriguing creatures of Greek mythology, the legendary half-man, half-bull creature that lives in the labyrinths of the island of Crete. The Minotaur appears not only as a wild and bloodthirsty monster, but also as a tragic hero, a figure with deep meanings that symbolize the complexity of human nature, uncontrollable passions, and the cruelty of fate. His story is a long and tragic journey that extends from mythology to the present day, delving into the depths of human history. The birth of the Minotaur begins when King Minos of Crete fails to sacrifice a bull that he was supposed to sacrifice to Poseidon. Poseidon, to punish Minos, makes his wife Pasiphae fall in love with the bull. The Minotaur is born as a result of this forbidden love. Minos imprisons this monstrous creature in the labyrinth and begins to send 7 young men and 7 young women from Athens every year as sacrifices to the Minotaur. This cruel tradition continues until the Athenian hero Theseus decides to kill the Minotaur. The Minotaur is a legendary creature, half human and half bull, born from the unnatural union between Pasiphae, the queen of Crete, and a sacred bull that King Minos of Crete was supposed to sacrifice to the god Poseidon. This extraordinary and unacceptable situation caused the Minotaur to be accursed, ostracized, and outcast being from birth. This tragic fate of the Minotaur, who was excluded from society both because of his physical appearance and his birth, made him even more savage and ruthless. King Minos, in order to hide this monstrous and dangerous creature and keep it away from the public eye and also to keep it under control, commissioned Daedalus, the most famous architect of the time, to build a huge, complex, and inescapable labyrinth. The Minotaur is condemned to live in the depths of this labyrinth in a dark and eerie environment, feeding on human flesh. The labyrinth becomes both his physical and emotional prison. The fame of the Minotaur spread beyond the borders of Crete, reaching Athens, located on the opposite shore of the Aegean Sea, and the Athenians, in order to protect themselves from the wrath of King Minos and at the same time show their loyalty to Crete, are forced to send 7 young girls and 7 young boys every year as terrible sacrifices to Crete, to the labyrinth where the Minotaur lives. These poor young people are mercilessly devoured by the Minotaur, who waits in the depths of the labyrinth, hungry and wild. Theseus, a hero who wants to put an end to this cruel and inhumane tradition, to lift this terrible burden from the people of Athens, shows a great example of courage and voluntarily goes to Crete and decides to kill the Minotaur. With the help of Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos of Crete, he overcomes the complex, intertwined, and inescapable paths of the labyrinth and finally confronts the Minotaur. After a long and arduous struggle, Theseus kills the Minotaur and thus saves Athens from this terrible calamity, from this tragic and bloody sacrificial tradition. Minotaur in Greek mythology is not only a creature that is half human and half bull, but also a symbol with much deeper and more complex meanings. His birth represents the uncontrollable desires and passions of Queen Pasiphae of Crete, the wrath of the god Poseidon, and the sin of King Minos. This supernatural union also shows how uncontrollable and destructive human nature can be. The labyrinth, on the other hand, symbolizes the complexity, mystery, dangers, and escape routes of a person's own inner world. Getting lost in the labyrinth's corridors represents a person's confrontation with their own internal conflicts, succumbing to their uncontrollable desires and having difficulty finding the right path. Minotaurs feeding on human flesh is interpreted as a symbol of greed, savagery, uncontrollable passions, and primal urges. This situation also shows how individuals who are pushed out of society, ostracized, and demonized can be turned into monsters. Theseus' killing of the Minotaur, on the other hand, represents universal themes such as defeating the monster within oneself, overcoming difficulties, mastering uncontrollable desires, and heroism. Theseus' victory also symbolizes the victory of reason, will, and courage over uncontrollable passions. Minotaur legend, as one of the most striking and tragic stories of Greek mythology, has inspired many artists for centuries, from ancient times to the present day. His birth, curse, imprisonment, and struggle with Theseus have been depicted in various ways in many fields such as painting, sculpture, literature, music, and even modern cinema and video games. The Minotaur's depictions and stories have gained different meanings and interpretations in every era. For example, Pablo Picasso's Minotaur drawings, one of the most important artists of the 20th century, emphasize his dark, savage, and tragic aspect, as well as his uncontrollable passions and inner conflicts. Picasso's Minotaur appears not only as a monster, but also as a figure representing the complexity of human nature and uncontrollable desires. Likewise, many writers and poets have also addressed the Minotaur in their works through different themes. Some writers see the Minotaur as a tragic hero, while others have treated him as a symbol representing the dark sides of humanity. The Minotaur's story has continued to influence artists and thinkers in every era in a way that is open to different interpretations and retellings. Minotaur continues to live on in popular culture from mythology to the present day. References to the Minotaur or his story have been made in many films, TV series, video games, and books. For example, while some fantasy works feature Minotaur-like creatures, in some games the Labyrinth theme evokes the Minotaur legend. This shows how lasting and influential the Minotaur is as a mythological figure. Minotaur's story is just one of the riches that mythology offers us. His character brings together the complexity of human nature, the cruelty of fate, and the theme of heroism. The Minotaur teaches us important lessons, such as facing the monster within ourselves, overcoming difficulties, and preserving our humanity.